Thursday for the pro football world. Welcome, everyone, to NFL Total Access. Hope you had a great Christmas.
Yes.
We are back in action. Lindsey Rhodes and Scott Hansen ready to talk playoff push.
That's right, 12 games with playoff implications this week. 5 that involve teams trying to get in. 1 that may or may not feature Zach Ertz. Our latest headlines today presented by Lexus, kicking off with an update out of Philly, and it is not the one that Eagles fans were hoping for. Their leading receiver still not cleared for contact, hasn't practiced since he broke his rib on Sunday. As for the Cowboys, they've been limiting Dak Prescott's workload this week. The injured quarterback hasn't thrown yet at practice. He's trying to rest his sprained AC joint, but says he hopes to throw on Friday. Drew Brees, a full participant today in New Orleans, but Michael Thomas was limited. The latter has a hand injury, the severity of which is unclear. The former Brees was listed as limited yesterday. According to Sean Payton, he has inflammation in his knee. He has been spotted in a sleeve. Derrick Henry spotted at practice today in Nashville. The Titans running back says that the week off last week to rest the hamstring helped him a lot. He says he is definitely ready to play on Sunday against the Texans with the 6th seed on the line. Raiders also in the mix for that playoff spot, but it is unknown whether they'll have their best running back. Josh Jacobs announcing out of nowhere yesterday that he underwent surgery yesterday. Not for a football injury, but a skin infection. John Gruden says it will not affect his playing status on Sunday. His shoulder, though, that might be another story. As for the Seahawks running backs, look who's back practicing with them. That is Marshawn Lynch. Back in a Seahawks jersey, getting in reps for Sunday in a pretty big game against the Niners for the division and possibly for the 1 seed. We've got reporters with both of those teams now. MJ Acosta with the Niners and Omar Ruiz. He is with the Seahawks. How's that throwback backfield looking, Omar?
Well, by all accounts, Marshawn Lynch has looked great at practice, but we're not able to see that much. Russell Wilson saying that Lynch looks like he could play the entire game on Sunday. Well, that point will be debated until game time and kickoff. All the hype surrounding Marshawn Lynch's return, Wilson also adds that it'll be about Lynch's play on the field, while also adding that Lynch's intangibles certainly can play a part too.
Marshawn's definitely one of those guys who's, no matter what, he's given everything, every play, every moment, and is going to bring that, and you're going to feel that, in the locker room. You're going to feel that, when he's in the huddle. So it's great to have him back, obviously, and bring that juice, bring that energy, bring that focus and tenacity.
One other note from the Seahawks, Jadeveon Clowney says there's no way he's not playing, insisting that he will suit up on Sunday after missing a couple games with core injuries. He told me he's watched that 49er game from earlier this season 8 or 9 times. He wrecked that game, scored the touchdown, had a sack, 5 tackles, trying to figure out how the 49ers will play him differently on Sunday. But certainly good news for a Seahawks defense that has most certainly been banged up the last several weeks.
Yeah, injuries always big this time of year. How are the Niners looking in that department, MJ?
Well, one of the biggest advantages this week for the 49ers is that unlike many of the teams, including their opponents, they're relatively healthy going into Week 17. Defensive end Dee Ford was the only player who did not participate in Thursday's practice. He's still dealing with that hamstring injury that has kept him out of 5 of the last 6 games. Now, on the other side of the coin is rookie wide receiver Deebo Samuel. He was out on the field today, but once again wearing that blue non-contact jersey. I am told, however, that his shoulder injury will not hinder his ability to suit up and play on Sunday. Of course, we'll get confirmation on that later in the week directly from the 49ers. Now, I had a conversation with running back Raheem Mostert during the open locker room portion today, and he told me that the team is not focused on all the what could happen scenarios after Sunday's game. He says they just can't do that. The priority right now is playing every snap and being ready for Sunday's game against Seattle. He says the key to doing that is switching off any emotion around all the hype. And defensive coordinator Robert Saleh put that perfectly today. He said, guys, this is not the Catalina wine mixer. It's just not that big a deal. An interesting mindset for a team that will be playing football in January.
Love
Lindsay?
the Step Brothers reference. Wish Sean O'Hara was here to enjoy it. MJ Acosta in Santa Clara, Omar Ruiz in Renton. The game is in Seattle on Sunday, the last game of Week 17. Scott?
Lindsay, let's talk about this a little bit more here. The Seahawks and the Niners trying to win the division on the way to what they hope is a Super Bowl championship. chip. This man won 3 of them. Willie McGinest, have a good Christmas, sir?
Yeah, great one.
Good one? Okay,
Absolutely.
well, someone's going to start the new year off right with a division title here.
Right.
And so much talk has been about Marshawn Lynch.
Right.
And when I think fans hear, Marshawn Lynch return, they're thinking the 2014 version of Marshawn Lynch, who was one of the best running backs in football at that time. 2019, late December, Marshawn Lynch. What do we expect?
It wasn't the same. And I love me some beast mode. I love Marshawn Lynch. And I know he brings to the table as far as his energy and his juice and his personality and character. But that's not what we've seen the last time he was with the Raiders. He only played in 6 games, wasn't a game-changing running back, and wasn't that effective. So I would think Pete is a really smart head coach. They're going to use him. He's going to be the carrot. They'll use him in some of the play action things. He's great in protection, one of the best protection backs in the league, but he'll have a limited role, whether it's short yardage, whether it's scheming up some of those tough runs that they need. And when you watch Marshawn play, here's a bunch of runs that you're seeing on the screen. All these are 5 yards or less. This is vintage Marshawn Lynch, the last time you've seen him with the Raiders. You need those tough yards. You hand him the football off. He'll get those for you. He'll get it in 4 yards. He'll get it on the goal line, and then he'll bust open a couple of plays you don't expect him to. But he's not in football shape. He hasn't played the game in a year, and that's a difference between working out and just coming on, playing in a playoff atmosphere, especially against one of the best defenses in the league.
Pete Carroll was asked a bunch about, hey, Marshawn's back and everything. Pete Carroll was quick to divert the attention back.
Smart.
They got a 6th-round rookie, Travis Homer, who's had a couple of flashes so far. Right. Travis Homer's supposed to be the man that's going to carry the mail there. Although if it's 1st and goal from the 1-yard line, I want to see what running back is in the backfield.
They'll make a better choice this time.
And maybe better play call, too. Okay. So if it's not Marshawn Lynch in the ground game being the key to the game, what is for Seattle?
Now, remember, I did pick the 49ers to win this game because there's too much on the line riding with them and what they need to do. But you never count out Russell Wilson in this offense. And you talk about a guy who is one of our best move-the-pocket type quarterbacks. It's Russell Wilson. Here's a play against the 49ers. He's booting to the right. This play has hurt the 49ers over the past few weeks. Losing contain, him getting out on the edge. The scramble plays right here. When pressure starts to get in, he can avoid and make plays like this down the field. One of the best at being accurate and hitting his receivers. He's not a sitting duck. He'll move the pocket. He'll make those plays you don't expect. And then the zone runs and then the quarterback design keepers. One of the best in the league, too. So they got to defend against all these Russell Wilson type plays. He's not going to sit in the pocket. He's going to move the pocket. They watch film. They know the plays that hurt the 49ers and the plays that they're really good at.
Last regular season game 256, last game of the decade for the NFL, and someone's going to win the division title on Sunday Night Football. Lindsay?
Jason Garrett's Cowboys are also fighting for a division on Sunday. Need a win against the Redskins and for the Eagles to lose to the Giants. If they don't get both of those things, their season is over, and the question will shift to whether Jason Garrett's tenure as head coach will be as well. His contract set to expire at the end of the season after 9 years at the helm.
I don't really think much about that stuff. Come to work today and do everything I can to help our team have a great Thursday and our preparation for Sunday. And that's what we try to instill in our football team, that kind of mentality and that kind of focus.
When do you think about your future?
Not a whole lot.
When will you?
I guess at some point in the future. That's an ender, right? Yeah, good to see you guys.
Jason Garrett, not the only one enduring awkward lines of questioning these days. Ian Rappaport and Jim Trotter with us now. What are you hearing, Ian, about other teams that could be looking for new coaches come Monday?
Well, we already know about 2 of them. The Carolina Panthers, Washington Redskins have already moved on from head coaches. Both of those guys obviously going to be trying to hire new ones. And, of course, the Carolina Panthers have already interviewed one person in Mike McCarthy. A couple other teams to keep an eye on who may be searching for new head coaches. One, of course, the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone knows that if Jason Garrett does not take his team to the playoffs, certainly it seems they are going to be looking for a new head coach. Giants coach Pat Shurmur, another coach on the hot seat. Just the way it has gone for him this year, it just does not seem like his team has made the kind of progress that the Giants want. Then some others we are monitoring, the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Some of that may actually depend on what happens on the field Sunday, but seems all of those are at this point undecided about the futures of their head coach.
Tricky thing about firing a head coach is you have to have a better candidate to take his place. Who's out there and available, Jim?
You know, Lindsay, what's interesting is that when you talk to people around the league, there are a handful of former NFL head coaches that they talk about whose names are being mentioned. They think that Ron Rivera will have a shot at a job if he wants it this year. Another name being mentioned, Mike McCarthy, who already interviewed down in Carolina. Other names, Josh McDaniels, Marvin Lewis. Also a name I'm hearing, too, is Jim Caldwell. There have been inquiries about him. He's an assistant down in Miami. When he was in Detroit, went to the playoffs twice in 4 years. They had only one playoff appearance in the 14 years prior to him arriving there. So that's a name to watch as well. But also we have names of guys who have not been head coaches yet in the NFL. Among them, Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator. He is going to get interviews. Also, Matt Rule, the Baylor coach, is a guy that teams are hot on as well. One other name potentially we hear a lot about is Lincoln Riley down in Oklahoma. We'll just have to see if that one pans out.
That's a great list. A lot of those names you mentioned, probably all those names are going to get interviews. A couple other guys I would mention as well. Dennis Allen, the Saints defensive coordinator, seems to have a lot of buzz. He has taken that unit from one of the NFL's worst to one of the NFL's best. Robert Saleh, similar situation with the San Francisco 49ers. Sounds like he certainly is going to have some head coach interest, as will Don Wink Martindale, the Baltimore Ravens defensive coordinator. Just the way they play and everything the Ravens built, no doubt teams are going to be looking at trying to replicate that. And then kind of a wild card here, Raheem Morris, who has taken control of this Falcons defense really the second half of the season, has done an incredible job. A former head coach who may, in fact, get an interview or two down the line.
Yeah, you know, Lindsay, what's interesting about what Ian said is all of those guys are legitimate names and deserve opportunities. But what you're hearing around the league, at least what I'm hearing, is that owners still seem to be stuck on young, offensive-minded coaches. And that doesn't play well for some of these defensive guys. Unfortunately, they deserve an opportunity. As Tony Dungy said to me last summer, right now owners don't know what they're looking for in head coaches, and so they follow the trend. And the trend has been in recent year young, offensive-minded coaches. So unless they step out of that, we're going to see more of the same. One other caveat here, what I'm hearing around the league, some teams are interested in talking to offensive coordinators on the collegiate level, minority offensive coordinators on the collegiate level, but some of them are reluctant to interview because they do not believe, based on the league's recent hiring practices, that these will be legitimate interviews. Remember, of the last 15 head coaching openings, only 2 were filled by people of color.
What about general manager candidates that you're hearing buzz about, Jim, in case that job becomes available anywhere?
Well, we know all of the names that have been out there, but let's choose a name that we may not have heard much about. And that name is Andrew Berry, who's an executive with the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone I talk to about Andrew tells me he is sharp, bright, he knows what he's doing, and they believe that it is a matter of when, not if, he becomes a general manager. So that is somebody to keep an eye on as we go forward.
Yeah, Andrew Berry is certainly a hot name. If there are general manager openings, and certainly seems like there are going to be a couple other names to watch. George Payton with the Minnesota Vikings, assistant GM there. Really hot name, really well respected. Nick Caserio, who of course runs the show in New England, always a hot candidate. Sounds like this year he would welcome opportunities potentially to interview. A couple Seattle guys that we've mentioned, Trent Kirshner.